In the last video, we saw that Mabel was returning to her room from her first walk. On the way, she sees Pacifica Donovan, Oscar's biological mother and also a duke. Then she sees a red-eyed boy who is giving the knights a hard time. But he faints soon after his eyes meet Mabel's, and she feels strange too. She later learns that he was a dangerous person called Devlin's Devil. The information about the boy being close to Mabel reaches the Emperor's aide, Gustav, and he is scared to inform the Emperor about this. But even though Esteban is surprisingly calm on hearing this, he loses his temper on hearing that Mabel had meowed while on the walk. He rushes to her room and starts bothering everyone, and Mabel decides to meow in front of him to satisfy his curiosity. A month after that incident, the priests from the Holy Kingdom of Abelardo came to visit Esteban, and they remind him of the debt his father owed the Holy Kingdom after they say that Mabel was the child of prophecy. They accept the fact that their request was excessive, and they are willing to drop it for now. But in exchange, they want to meet Mabel. Esteban cannot refuse it, and he takes them to Mabel's room with strict conditions. Oscar reads a political book to Mabel, and she thinks that something is wrong with his education. And then, as the guests come to see her, Mabel feels uneasy as the head priest approaches her, and her nausea is cured when he leaves. And at night, the head priest sneaks into her room to kidnap her. Mabel starts crying, and in the desperate situation, she manages to flip to her belly. Esteban comes to her room in time and catches the priest red-handed. He is furious and wants to punish him, but the captain of the knights thinks that it would cause diplomatic problems. Esteban decides to accept his advice this time, but then he asks the knights to volunteer to be the princess's bodyguards, and only one knight is bold enough to volunteer. Now, Mabel is in her room, and she is sucking on her pacifier. She used to wonder why she was given a pacifier, but now she realizes its importance. It was a blessing to be able to enjoy such a thing in this harsh world, and she thinks that pacifiers are like drugs. Larima and Xavier are also watching Mabel, and they realize that she really likes pacifiers. But then Mabel starts thinking about the head priest, Montego. The Emperor dragged him out of Mabel's room, and she did not know anything after that. Xavier is saying that he heard that Mabel could flip now, and as always, Larima does not believe him and calls him a liar. Mabel thinks that their relationship was good. They kept on bickering, but they were always together. She has heard that they have been close since birth, and they must feel like siblings. Mabel always wanted to have a close relationship like this, too, and she is jealous. She has a half-brother, Oscar, but she does not feel close to him at all, and she wonders if she will ever see a day when she has a family she can depend on. As she is thinking this, the knight who volunteered to be her bodyguard enters the room. Mabel wakes up as she feels his presence, and he greets her. Mabel is surprised, and she spits out her pacifier. It falls down, and the knight cheerfully goes to pick it up. And Mabel wonders if this person is an assassin. The man says that the surprised princess was also too cute, and Mabel grunts in response. The knight nervously wonders if Mabel hated him from their first meeting. And he is right. Mabel wonders who he was to act so friendly. But then the nanny enters the room, and she calls the knight Sir Lissandro Donovan and says that he came early. Mabel wonders if he was her nanny's acquaintance. But the name Donovan sounded familiar. The knight takes the nanny's hand and greets her as Madame Ruffey. She was actually Count Ruffey Alielli and was only serving as Mabel's nanny. And now, Mabel has remembered that Donovan was the last name of the former empress. The knight is flirting with the nanny, and he says that she looks more beautiful than ever. He was happy to know that he would see her every day in the future. Ruffey replies that Lissandro was also as sweet as always. She was relieved when she heard that he would serve as the princess's bodyguard. He was a master of swordsmanship, and it would be nice to have him around. But Mabel is shocked to hear that this man will be her bodyguard. She thinks that even though she needed a bodyguard, could the family members of the former empress be trusted with that? It was natural for anyone on her side to hate her, and the knight was acting quite friendly. Mabel thinks that the knight was flirting with Ruffey, and even though he was handsome, she thought that he was too mischievous. Mabel deems the knight a playboy and wants him to stay away from her nanny. She babbles angrily, and the knight realizes that Mabel does not like him. But the nanny says that the princess must be on her guard because of what happened last night. She is looking sad as she says that she did not expect the princess to be attacked at night. and Mabel starts flailing her arms towards her. Rufai goes to pick her up and wonders why Mabel is asking for a hug right now. And the reason was that she wanted her nanny to not feel guilty about it. As Mabel hugs her, Rufai tells Lisandro that she is usually gentle and frivolous like this. Mabel knows that this is not the truth, but just because her nanny said it, she decides to fake it. She smiles at the knight, and he says that this person was not a princess. Both Rufai and Mabel are confused, and then the knight exclaims that Mabel was an angel who fell from the sky. He says that the prophecy was true. Mabel is frustrated to think that an idiot like this would be her bodyguard, and she wonders if it was really okay to let him take this job. She even feels like the emperor hated her, and this was his way of telling her. Mabel thinks that it is still within reasonable doubt that this man is an idiot, but she starts worrying about her future now. Suddenly, Oscar comes to Mabel's room to play with her. He always behaved much more maturely compared to other people, and it was because of the expectations placed on him as the heir to the Hermano Empire and his thorough education. And even then, he would always act his age when he came to meet Mabel. He would come in even without knocking, just like he does now. But he is stunned as he sees his uncle there. The knight asks Oscar what he is doing here. He says that he should be in his royal studies class. Oscar timidly replies that he finished all the assignments his uncle told him to do, and Mabel thinks that the knight is a completely different person now. The knight reprimands Oscar for coming out immediately after finishing his assignment. He says that who will see Oscar as the next emperor at this rate, and he even goes as far as to tell the boy that he should be ashamed of this. Mabel thinks that the knight's tone had also changed, and now he was scaring her. She thinks that even the emperor was not so strict, and wonders why Oscar's uncle was acting like this. She thinks that even though Oscar was the heir to the throne, he was only 6 years old. It was his age to be running around and playing. The knight tells Oscar to go back and train some more, and he says that he will do so. Mabel sees that even the nanny was upset after seeing this. She had also been Oscar's nanny when he was little. As Oscar begins to walk back to his classroom, Mabel thinks that she can't do much because she can't talk. But since it was Oscar, she could at least help him. Mabel starts crying loudly, and Oscar turns around. Rufai is also nervous, as Mabel was not the type to cry like this. But Oscar runs to her, and he takes her in his arms. He tries to comfort her so that she will stop crying. Mabel has realized something. Oscar could probably only catch a breath when he was with her, and if that were true, she needed to keep him as close to her as possible. Mabel angrily stares at Lisandro, and he tells Oscar to hand Mabel over as he could drop her. Oscar is hesitant, but his uncle tells him to do it quickly. But then Mabel suddenly shouts at him, calling him a jerk, but she can only speak it as Jark. The knight is shocked as he hears the princess call him Jark, and wonders what she means, and Mabel repeats herself angrily. The nanny intervenes and tells the knight that the princess must be shy since she was seeing him for the first time, and she suggests that she should escort him out. She also adds that Mabel likes Oscar, and he comes to keep her happy. Otherwise, she keeps looking for him throughout the day. Mabel thinks that she has never done that, but if that was the story they were going with, she would play along, and she thinks that her nanny is quite skilled at lying. Lisandro sighs, and then he ruffles Oscar's hair and tells him to have fun. As he leaves, Oscar tells Mabel that it's all right now, his uncle has left, and Mabel thinks that she is the one who kicked him out. But then Oscar asks her if she really looks for him every day, and Mabel thinks that he was quick to believe what he liked. It was hard to take care of such innocent children. On his way out, Lisandro meets his sister, Pacifica Donovan. She says that she heard he volunteered to be the princess's bodyguard. And he says that since no one volunteered, he had to step up. And he says that his sister also knows how much he loves babies. She tells him not to be silly, and Lisandro laughs it off. He says that his sister was working so hard that he could not afford to fool around. Then Pacifica asks him about his opinion of Mabel, and after thinking for a moment, Lisandro says that he has never seen such a cute and adorable child in his life. He starts describing her and how cute she is, and Pacifica does not have much to say in response. Lisandro also realizes that she was concerned about something, and he says that he knows that she is not fond of children, and that is why she was being so strict with Oscar, and he was also following her instructions and being extra strict with him. But in the past, things were different. Oscar was a little boy who lived alone in the palace without his mother. He seemed to be lonely, and Lisandro played with him as his uncle. And although Empress Siana also took care of Oscar, since he was his uncle, he paid more attention to him. But his sister Pacifica was different, and she told the young Oscar to stop being immature. She appointed Lisandro as Oscar's academic and swordsmanship teacher, and he was happy to get that chance. But Pacifica added one special instruction for him. He had to be strict with Oscar. And now Lisandro tells his sister that he thinks she was being too harsh on Oscar. He tries to say that Oscar was too young for all this, but Pacifica stops him mid-sentence. She tells him that they talked for too long and that now they should both go back to work. And Lisandro wonders if his sister has nothing else to say, but he is sure that she would not call him out for no reason. And he has no idea what was behind her expressions when she heard about the princess. Lisandro is worried that the little princess has already earned Pacifica's hatred. He thinks that when Mabel grows up, she will run into Pacifica more often, and he has no idea what will happen then. And he thinks that Mabel will be hurt if his sister treats her like she treats Oscar. But as he walks back to his room, Lisandro thinks that he should worry more about himself. And the first thing on his mind is what he should do to avoid being hated by the little princess. Lisandro was worried about his relationship with Mabel, and summer came soon enough. Mabel is sitting in her chair while eating food, and she is getting bored. She wonders if it was because she remembered everything from her past life, or because she was still too young. Time seemed to be going too slowly for her, and she thinks that if she had not remembered her past life, this period would have passed quickly. But she has already used this boring piece fully. She has trained her body and can now lift her neck while lying on her belly, and she has also perfectly mastered crawling. But she has kept it a secret from everyone. During the day, she does not even flip over because someone might be watching her. Her nanny is worried that Mabel is ill because she has not moved in a while, and Mabel is startled as she thinks that she cannot babble as she makes mistakes doing that. But there were developments in her story. She is now eating baby food, and Mabel thinks that she is one step closer to being an actual person, but that baby food was still alternately given to her with powder milk. The nanny compliments Mabel on eating all her food quietly, and Mabel thinks that she can't wait to eat real food. Since she was from the imperial family, she was going to eat a lot of delicious food. Mabel thinks that she could not eat what she liked in her previous life, and as she thinks about that, the memories become fresh in her mind. She could not afford to eat expensive or delicious things and had to fill her stomach with convenience store food. Mabel decides to stop thinking about the depressing memories, and she has also noticed that Lisandro Donovan was at her door yet again today. He was Oscar's godfather and teacher, teaching him swordsmanship and other subjects, and Mabel does not like him one bit. She has seen him act intimidating towards the young child. And on top of that, he was the one who told Oscar to read the book Algor Chekhov on the ills of Bordeauxism, which he then read to her. And since he made Oscar read that book, Mabel is certain that she will never get along with him. She thinks that the only time her brother feels comfortable is when she is with him. And even though Lisandro was acting like a fool right now, he changed his behavior when Oscar came. So Mabel decides to keep him out of the room. She angrily meows and starts to hit her bed, and her caretakers can still not digest the fact. Xavier says he cannot believe the princess would hate someone like this, and Larima replies that Xavier also deserved to be hated if his face was considered. He gets angry at her, and they start fighting. Mabel wonders if they had a disease that compelled them to fight, but she wants to ignore them and wait for the night to come. The sooner it comes, the sooner she will be able to practice crawling. Ruffey asks Mabel if she is bored, and in that case, they should go on a picnic by the lake. Mabel wonders why the nanny suggested going to the picnic so suddenly. And then she adds that if they go to the North Forest, they might be able to see the cat that Mabel likes. And Mabel meows, wondering if this was the reason why her nanny suggested going on a picnic. And she wonders if everyone thinks that she likes cats like crazy. Mabel is not obsessed with the divine cat, even though she likes cats. And if she could talk, she would definitely tell her nanny that. Ruffey asks Mabel if, since her eyes were sparkling, it meant she liked going to see the cat so much. And Mabel can only smile as she is sitting all dressed up. She knows that she cannot get out of the misunderstandings until she learns to speak. As Mabel goes outside, she realizes that it is hot outside. And she did not know this because she was inside the palace. She cries, and the nanny says that it was hot, but this fresh season was called the summer. And as Rufai adjusts the umbrella on Mabel's carriage, the latter wonders if she was brought out just to feel the summer heat. She does not think that it was a good decision, but even though it is hot, she will hold it in a little longer just for her nanny. But then Mabel suddenly smells the beautiful scent of flowers, and she is mesmerized. The nanny smiles and shows her a flower. She asks that wasn't it pretty, and gives it to Mabel. Mabel looks at the flower with sparkly eyes and thinks that it is really pretty. And now that she thinks about it, she never received flowers in her past life. Flower bouquets are expensive, and she could only get them on special occasions like entrance ceremonies or graduation ceremonies. But no one even came for her at her entrance and graduation ceremonies. And watching other children hold flowers while taking a picture with their parents made her upset. And she shakes away that sadness right now and decides to stop remembering the past. The princess and her caretakers have reached the picnic spot, and Xavier asks Mabel if they should go and find another cat today. But Mabel has noticed that someone is watching them. It was Lisandro, and Mabel wonders if she was being too cold to him. But she firms her resolve. She has to do this so that Oscar can have a place to rest. Mabel angrily stares at Lisandro, and he is disheartened. Xavier also notices this, and he takes the princess to find the cat. He also wonders why Mabel hates the night so much. They enter the forest and find nothing, and Xavier says that maybe the cat was not here today. But then Mabel hears the crunching of leaves, and as she turns back, the golden cat has come to meet her again. Xavier is also surprised, and he notices that the cat is coming closer to Mabel. And Mabel is amazed as she sees the cat's golden fur. Xavier says that the cat looked much bigger than before. Mabel pets it, and the cat is happy to play along with the princess. Mabel thinks that the cat was so cute when it rubbed its forehead against her hand. But then she thinks that the golden cat was a divine beast that hatched on the same day she was born. And she wonders if it was a coincidence that they always meet when they come to this place. She thinks that it may have something to do with the oracle and the prophecy that she heard about the last time. But she doesn't know about it and has no energy to spare thinking about it. She was feeling hot and wanted to go to the shade now. She babbles, and Xavier understands that it was getting hot and they should go back. He tells Mabel that they should say goodbye to the cat, and she wonders if she has to say bye like a baby. She is embarrassed, but does it anyway. And as Xavier compliments her, Mabel thinks that it is embarrassing to be complimented on such petty things, but the golden cat is staring at Mabel, and then Mabel suddenly hears the words come again as the cat turns to go back to its home. She is shocked, and Xavier asks her what was wrong. Mabel realizes that Xavier did not hear the voice she just heard. She wonders if she really heard the cat talking to her, or if it was just her imagination. But now they are back at the picnic spot, and Xavier is running while holding Mabel. She enjoys this little form of entertainment, but Xavier is exhausted as he has to run around the lake in circles. And Lisandro was still following them to protect the princess. And this was what Mabel wanted. Whenever she moved, Lisandro moved with her, even though he kept his distance. And she wants to make him run as payback for bullying Oscar. But Xavier is exhausted now and tells Mabel that they should take a rest. He lays down on the ground, and now Mabel wonders what her nanny and Larima were doing. She looks at them and sees that they are talking. But they were only looking like that. In fact, Rufai was scolding Larima. Mabel thinks that they do not want to go back to the castle yet, and she finds a chance in this situation. She is on all fours, and Mabel thinks that she will not get a chance to crawl freely like this. It was such a wide place, and she was free. But the nanny has spotted Mabel crawling, and she tells Xavier to not take his eyes off her. Xavier obeys and looks at Mabel, but then he immediately passes out. And Mabel thinks that he did not exercise enough if he passed out just by circling the lake a few times. And now that she has complete freedom, Mabel starts to crawl. But she is not planning to go far. She finds something lying on the ground and curiously approaches it. And as she explores further, Mabel finds someone lying behind the bush, and she is stunned as she sees the Devlin's devil. He is unconscious, and Mabel approaches him. She is sure that this was the same person she saw on her first walk, and she was surprised to learn that he was Devlin's devil. But then she wonders that he was captured by the knights. So what was he doing in a place like this? She wonders if the boy escaped from the prison. His whole body was covered in blood, and she thinks that the Knights tortured a boy. It was too much. She thinks that he was around Oscar's age. Mabel wants to wipe the blood from his body, but she is too tired to do it. And neither can she do anything except crawl. She could not even talk. But Rufe spots Mabel near the bushes. She asks Xavier to get up as the princess has gone too far. And as Mabel hears Xavier's voice, she panics. She was with a dangerous wanted criminal, but he was just a boy. She wonders what she should do and finds that there are leaves beneath her hands. Mabel decides to hide the boy first. Xavier is already trying to find her, and Mabel has to do it before he succeeds. She takes the leaves and throws them on the boy's face, and he suddenly wakes up. And as Mabel looks into his red eyes, she feels like she could get sucked in. Xavier is also getting close, and Mabel thinks that it was pointless trying to hide the boy. She should leave this place immediately. She crawls back to the picnic spot and meets Xavier in the middle. He picks her up and says that she is covered in dirt, but that meant she must have had fun. As Xavier picks Mabel up and walks away, she thinks she has done as much as she could. There were a lot of scars on the boy's body, and she wonders if he will be okay. But the boy is still stunned, and he thinks of the incidents leading to his current condition. He thinks about a dream he had. It was a long dream, but he did not even remember it now. He felt like he was floating in endless darkness, and then he just killed people randomly without even thinking. He was just a mindless slaughter machine born to kill. And even though he was in a dream that he does not remember, the boy came to his senses just once for a short while. He found himself in a prison, chained with magic sealing tools. But he strained himself and broke free of his cuffs. The prison guards who saw him were shocked and could not even offer any resistance. He knocked them out and escaped from jail. The word spread rapidly, and the Knights sprang into action to capture him. He was hiding in the garden and realized that he was in the Hermano Palace right now, and he thinks that he was definitely going crazy. But how did he come back to his senses? During a fight, his mind just suddenly cleared when he saw someone. It was Mabel, and the boy just knew that she was a child with light blue eyes and pink hair. And as his mind cleared, the boy fainted. And that was the first time in his life that his mind was so clear. And he is shocked, as he still cannot understand what that was. He thinks that if it was because he lost too much blood, he decides to rest for a bit longer. If he could only rest peacefully, he would get better with his own healing powers. But as he was resting, he felt a small presence around him. He wondered if it was a rabbit or another small animal. But it was small enough that he did not have to kill it, and the boy thought that it would leave soon. But he did not know that it was Mabel again, and as she looks at him, he wonders why she is not leaving. There is a lot of blood on his body, and he thinks that she should be afraid. He ponders whether he should just chase her away, but Mabel has gathered a few leaves and thrown them on his face. The boy opens his eyes and sees the same child as before. He recognizes her by her light blue eyes, and his mind gets clear again, like the last time. And at the same time, the chains that bound him felt loose. But as Xavier collects Mabel and takes her back, the devil wonders who that child was. It is night now, and Mabel is in her room. She was feeling hotter than usual. Earlier, she thought that it was because she took a walk in the hot weather, but right now her whole body was hot. And as the nanny checks her temperature, she worries and tells Larima and Xavier to call the doctor immediately because the child has a fever. Mabel sneezes, and the nanny tells her to hang in there. Mabel wonders if it was because of the rain on the way back home. Even though Xavier shielded her and she washed and changed as soon as she came back, Mabel fell ill. Earlier, she thought that they were just making a fuss about being caught in the rain. But now she realizes that she has a summer fever. Soon, Esteban also comes to Mabel's room and learns that Mabel was sick from the doctor. The caretakers are nervous, and Mabel is also uncomfortable. Esteban thinks that Mabel was so tiny, and even though it was a simple cold, it might be too much for her. He holds her hand and wishes that he could take her sickness for her. The doctor says that the princess has taken some medicines and will be better soon. Esteban asks him if he is sure, and the doctor affirms. Even Oscar tries to convince his father that Mabel will be fine since she took the medicines, and he thinks that too many people in her room will make recovery hard for her. But then someone comes running into the room, and he opens the doors with a bang. It is Gustav, and he screams that there is an emergency. But as he looks at the angry emperor in front of him, he realizes that he should not have done that. He apologizes and says that he should not have shouted, even though it was an emergency. Esteban asks him to speak, and Gustav nervously says that the Devlin's devil escaped. The emperor is shocked, and Gustav continues. According to the witnesses, the boy broke free of the chains and even knocked out the guards, and by following his blood trail, the soldiers could only go as far as the northern forest. And it was the same place where Mabel went for a walk. Esteban thanks God that they did not meet, unaware that they actually met. He says that Devlin's devil cannot escape. He orders the gates to be quarantined, and everyone leaving without permission should be detained. And the security in Mabel's palace was to be increased by 10 times, and Gustav says that he has already increased it 20 times. Esteban compliments him and then asks him to search the jungle where the blood trail disappeared, and then he orders everyone to leave while he stays behind. Oscar wonders why the emperor is not leaving with everyone. He is planning to stay by Mabel's side and take care of her. He thinks that she was tiny and fragile, and as she grows up, she will fall ill many times. And thinking about those situations made Esteban lose confidence. He had the largest empire on the continent, but even with all the wealth in the world, he could not protect the people important to him. He thinks about Siana and says that he fails every time. Esteban remembers the final moments with his late wife. He is telling her that she should not have told him to give up on her and look after their child. But Siana insisted, and she is glad that Esteban accepted her request. Esteban shudders and says that he only did it because it was her request. But Siana says that it was a lie. He never gave up on her or their child. And she says that it must be hard for him to lose her like this, so she wants to apologize. And as she apologizes, Siana dies. Esteban is heartbroken. He never wanted her to apologize, and he wished her last words would be words of love. As he cries, he thinks that this wound will leave a scar, and that is why he swore to protect Mabel with all his might and eliminate every threat to her. But now he wonders if he can do that. He is afraid that Mabel will also leave him like Siana, but he shakes off that thought and apologizes to Mabel. He says that he was her father, and he would protect her. As Mabel falls asleep, she dreams of her past life. In the dream, she is little and has a fever. She is dizzy and thinks that she might die at this rate, and she was just lying in her room with no one to care for her. She gets up to take the medicine but finds that it is past its expiration date. But she does not have money to buy new medicines, and neither does she have water to take it. So she swallows the medicine by itself. Her father has not returned home for a month, and her mother has already left their family, never to return. And she wonders why her parents don't love her. Other kids have parents who care for them, but she has to do everything alone. Everyone always pitied her, and she wants to know why she was always alone. She wants to know the answers, as she thinks her loneliness will disappear as she learns them. But she thinks that no one can give her these answers. But then she hears a man calling her Mabel, and she wonders if her father has come back. She feels a cold towel on her face, followed by someone feeding her medicine. And as Esteban holds her in his lap, he tells her that she will get better soon and play with her father. Mabel thinks that this is a dream, and that this life is not hers. She is Yoon-gyo-ul, and she doesn't have a father who loves her. But even as Esteban says that he is her father and will protect her, she refuses to believe him. But then she admits her real feelings. She always wanted to be treated so gently. She starts to cry, thinking that even though it was a dream, it was so warm and emotional. She thinks that if she believes those words, she will be hurt again. But she wants to believe them, even if it is a dream. And Mabel smiles in her sleep, thinking that her father will be forgiven for everything he does in the dream. And so, she wants this dream to last forever. With this, the video ends. Did you enjoy it? Please tell us in the comments and also leave a like if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.